So still we have 2 minutes, I guess. So this used to go a little slow here on from StreamYard to YouTube. There is some lag, I guess. So that we will cover.
Okay, no worries.
Hello, everyone. Okay, so all set, I guess, Marco. So hello, everyone. Very good evening, good morning. Hope you all are doing good. So we have today Marco with us, and he will guide us and take us through the Selenium 4 features. Can someone from the other side confirm, like, if you can hear voice and everything is fine? Awesome. Thank you so much, guys. So, and a quick intro about Marco. Marco is the automation expert. He is the founder of automatenow.io. So please check out his website and his work on LinkedIn. He's expert in Selenium, automation, and all those fields. So he will walk us through the Selenium 4, what are the upcoming features in Selenium, and what's new there for us. He's a YouTube content creator as well, and he has expertise in automation. So he will guide us uh, all about the Selenium 4 today. And with that, I will hand over to Marco, and he will help us. Hello, Marco. Thank you for joining us today and helping us with this new innovation coming in Selenium 4. Over to you.
Thank you so much, Sanjay. I appreciate the invitation. I'm delighted and honored, really excited to be part of this morning. Well, for me, it's morning. Good evening to some of you. I know this is going all over the place. So thank you so much for joining us. Let me go ahead and share my screen here. All right. Hopefully you guys can see the presentation. So thank you, Sanjay, for inviting me for that nice introduction of you. Expert, I'm always learning. I'm kind of shy of using that word, but thank you. That's very kind of you. So this is obviously a demo on Selenium 4. I'm calling this a new chapter, mainly because Selenium 4, it's compared to Selenium 3's predecessor. It's miles ahead. It's being modernized and it's just being brought up to standards with the latest technologies that are available. I'm going to be showing you guys some of the new things, cool new features that are coming down the pipe. So let me go ahead and proceed here. So a little background on me. I have a computer engineering degree and also have an electronics certification, computer electronics certification. I just love everything that has to do with software and hardware in general. I'm also the lead SDET. I'm lead SDET at my current employer. Work for an insurance company. And I have about 8 years in the IT industry. I worked in insurance, e-commerce, as well as engineering domains. And before I went into IT, I used to be in the Navy. I served in the U.S. Navy for some time there. And most of the founders of AutomateNow.io is just a place for you, for people to go in and learn about automation in general. And as Sanjay mentioned, I'm also a YouTube content creator. All right, so this is some of the things that we're going to be discussing today. As you can see on the screen, I've outlined 6 topics. We're going to be looking at some of the architecture and some of the other things that are pretty promising with Selenium 4. I think many of the things that we're going to see here today are another testament as to why Selenium is going to remain as a competitive tool in the market. We see a lot of new tools coming out almost every month now. But Selenium is trying to stay relevant, with these new changes that are coming. All right, so for architecture, we're going to begin with that. We have changes that are coming for both grid and WebDriver. Due to time constraints, I'm going to try to limit this just to the WebDriver aspect of it. And then towards the end, I might give you some of the tips that are coming for the grid as well. So let's take a look at the WebDriver. So this is the old WebDriver architecture. When I say old, I'm referring to Selenium 3. And the way it used to work, we see 2 boxes here. On the left, we have Selenium and its ecosystem. And then on the right, I've outlined it, all the browser vendors. So first, we have the different libraries for Selenium, right? We can choose any language that you want to, well, most of the popular languages that you want to, write your tests in. And then we have our protocol. So for the longest time, Selenium has been using what is called the JSON wire protocol. And this is something that you can think of as a translator. So when we write a test, say, for example, in JavaScript, those tests have to be interpreted, by the JSON wire protocol. So the JSON wire protocol will encode the information before it sends it out to the WebDriver or to the browser driver, excuse me. And then we have on the right side, we have the vendors, right? So the main difference here is that the browser vendors are now using the W3C WebDriver protocol. So the W3C is basically an international community that works to develop web standards. So we have the browser vendors using this other standard while Selenium is using still the JSON wire protocol. So there has to be some form of communication in there so that our test can communicate with the browser effectively. So that's the purpose of the JSON wire protocol, so that it translates the information going out and the information coming back from the browser drivers. So here I have the protocol for the vendors, and then we have the different drivers that we can choose from. We all know, Chrome driver, Gecko driver, etc., and the actual browsers, right? So when we write a test, those instructions will be encoded by the JSON wire protocol, and then they would be sent over to the drivers, right? And then the drivers will execute the test on the actual browser. We'll open the browser, click on an element, fill a field, whatever it is, right? So let's say something happens where your test fails because you couldn't find an element, that information will come back in the form of an HTTP response, right? So that information will be decoded by the JSON wire protocol so that we can understand it, right? What type of response is it? 200, 500, whatever it is, depending on the response, it will render that information on whatever IDE that we're using to, write our test. And we'll be able to tell, okay, we couldn't find this element. The element is not interactable. A number of exceptions could occur, right? So this is how we used to work in the past. So we'll take a look at what's coming next. All right. So the main thing that you're going to see is this big red X, right? So there's no more JSON wire protocol. Selenium is now officially adopting the W3C WebDriver protocol. And there are some, big benefits to this, right? And one thing that I would like to point out that the differences are going to be at the protocol level and not at the API level. So when you're writing your test, you won't really notice a big difference. Most of the things are going to continue to work as normal. There may be a few things that got deprecated here and there, but for the most part, you won't notice a big difference, right? Because everything is basically happening behind the scenes. In fact, if you're using the latest version of WebDriver, which is 3.141.59, you already have this new protocol in there because I believe since 3.8, version 3.8, it started implementing the new protocol. So it has coexisted until now, right? But with the new release of 4.0, they're going to completely rip it out of the bindings, language bindings. It's no longer going to be there. So how is this useful, right? So your tests are going to be more stable, basically. One reason for that is because you no longer need to translate information back and forth. Selenium, your scripts are going to be basically speaking the same language as the vendors, right? Everyone's going to be on the same line, basically. There's no need for miscommunication or it's going to be a smoother execution of your test, basically, right? And that's what it boils down to. This could also be useful for browser compatibility testing. If you've had some experience working with Selenium, you're going to notice that sometimes running a test on Chrome versus running a test on, say, Firefox, there may be some differences. It's depending on how each browser's renders the application. And sometimes we have to write custom code. So hopefully, with this new adoption of W3C protocol, you won't have to write custom code to handle different browsers. It'll be smoother, easier to run your test on any browser, basically. And some people ask me, it's like, will this break my existing test? And the short answer is no. There are some things, like I mentioned before, that are going to be deprecated. So meaning that if you have been warned in the past, hey, stop using this library because it's going to be deprecated in the future, it's very likely that with Selenium 4, that library will no longer be there. So you will have to adjust your test in a few places, right? But generally speaking, you won't have to do very much to move your scripts from 3 whatever to 4.0. All right, so the next feature I want to talk about is relative locators. This is kind of exciting. Many other automation tools already have this, and so Selenium is starting to use that as well and implement that with the latest version that is coming, right? So we have different locators. It's basically 5 of them, as you can see them on the screen. So it's going to be able to allow you to find elements around you, basically. So we start with the starting element, and then from there you can find elements in different directions, right? So in addition to being able to find elements in the past, by using the different locator strategies, like by CSS, XPath, etc., we have this extra option now, that you can use to find by relative locators. And one thing I would like to mention is that this past Monday, Simon Stewart announced that he released beta 4, right? So that means that they introduced a new method called with. And this with method, you can use it to return a relative locator. And I'm going to give you an example of this, so don't worry too much about it. But this is the new method that was just introduced this past week, so that you can find the locators more easily, right? So let's see. And then that only applies for the Java language. If you're using, for example, Ruby libraries or some other library, then they have a different method. That one's called with tag name. So the example that I'm going to give you today is using the latest method that came out this week, and that is using with. So I'll show you the example of that. So some benefits that I can see for this is, for example, when you're trying to locate elements that are dynamic, difficult to locate. This could be useful for that, I believe. And another benefit is going to make your test easier to read and write, as you're going to see next. All right, so here I have a sample application, a hypothetical application. We have just an image at the top, some text. Let's take a look how we would try to find some of these elements here. And the first thing I'm going to do is add this import, right, from relative locators class, and then the with method. Right, so let's say we want to find this question mark here, this image, right? The first thing I'm going to do, I'm going to start with an element. My starting element is going to be this text right here, undo changes, right? So here we have a web element. I find that text, I provide here's just a regular, if you're using Selenium 3, this is you're going to be familiar with this first line, which is finding this element. And then we move on to the image, right? We see web element image, and then we say driver that find element. And here's this new method that I talked about. It's called with. And then with this one, the parameter that it requires is the by locator, right? So we say by, and then you can provide any locator that you want, right? So before it was only tag name. So with the latest beta that just came out, now you can provide any locator strategy. Basically, you can provide ID, CSS, XPath, whatever you want. So this is, I think, it's a pretty good idea. It's a step in the right direction, because many people are not only going to be using tag name, they can be using whatever they want. So this gives you more flexibility. So once I find the starting element, I can locate the next element, saying with, and then I provide whatever the ID might be, or if you don't have an ID, you just have a tag name, or whatever information you have, and then you can say that above, right? So in this case, I'm saying find the element that is above the text. That's what this above text means right here. So it's going to find this element right here, in this example, right? Next, let's say we want to find the text. Again, I could start with the image, right? And this is just my decision to start with the image. I could start from the bottom if I want, but I'm starting from the top. I will locate the image first, and then I'm going to go ahead and find the text. And by using the below method, right? I'm going to say find the text that is below the image, and that will return me this web element right here. All right. Similar with the button, right? We could start with the cancel button. Once we locate the cancel button, we can say find the element that has this ID that is to the left of the cancel button, and that will return me this element right here. And then to the right, this is to right of. Again, we could find the OK button, and then we can say find the cancel button by finding the element that is to the right of the OK button. Right? And then lastly is the near method, and this one is to find elements that are around you, basically. And you can say, for example, let's say I want to try to find this text right here. I could start with the cancel button and say find the element that is near the cancel button, and it will return any elements that matches this criteria, right? It's by ID, contains this message, and according to that documentation, it's going to be looking for anything that is within 100 pixels from the starting element. Right. All right, so the next item that we have is taking element screenshots. This one is pretty cool too. Before, as you know, we used to be able to take a screenshot of the entire web page, but now we can take screenshots of individual elements. So for example, if you're testing an application and all you care about is really whether a checkbox has been checked or that an image appears on the screen, then you can just take a screenshot of that, that element in the screen. And then that's going to be easier, more convenient for you, right? So in this case, I provided this example right in the Automate Now website. Let's say I just want to capture this element right here. I would just try to here I have some boilerplate code basically, but we can say welcome, from welcome get screenshot as. And then once we get that screenshot as, then we can save that file, and then that's going to allow you to capture the screenshot for any given element, right? So here we found the element first, and then we call this method get screenshot as on that web element that we found. Okay, so before we used to be able to maximize the screen and make it full size, but they've introduced a couple more things that we can do. For example, we can minimize the screen. We can create a new window. In this case, we can call this new window method, and then we can pass in the window type. In this case, I can say window, or I can say a new tab. It would open a new tab, and depending on the browser that you're using, it will also switch to that tab for you automatically. Again, going back to test readability and writability, here's an example of an implicit wait. You can before it was this way right here. Before Selenium 4, we would say the number of seconds in this case, and then time unit dot seconds. Now you would use a duration object. You say duration dot of seconds, and then you pass in the whatever seconds you want to wait for. So this is one of the things that if you have existing tests that are using any types of waits, you would have to update all of those tests to provide this new type of object, which is duration. So that's one of the things that I had to do when I moved it to Selenium 4. But that was pretty easy to do, though. All right, so the next one is the Chrome DevTools Protocol. And honestly, this is the one that I think this is the most exciting one, because this is going to move Selenium to the forefront, of what other tools are doing. So Chrome DevTools is basically it's a tool available for Chrome. So if you're using Chrome, this is going to be helpful for you. So we have other tools out there, for example, Cypress, Puppeteer, Playwright. They are already implementing this CDP protocol. So Selenium is now catching up to those guys. One of the things that you're going to notice that the Chrome driver used to extend the remote web driver, but it now extends the Chromium driver. So what can we do with this new feature? Some of the things that we can do is, for example, emulating network conditions. We can emulate geolocation. You can emulate a mobile device, cookie management, cache management, and a large number of other things that we can do. So let's take a look at one example, or a couple of examples, in fact. All right, so with this emulate network conditions, so if I manually want to go into the Chrome DevTools, I can click on this throttling section, and then I can select offline, right? And this will mimic no internet connection, right? And this is how we would do this through a script, right? So first, we need to create a hash map. And then in the hash map, we're going to provide some parameters, right? This information you're going to get from the internet, right? There's a Chrome DevTools Protocol website that you can go to, and then you can locate all the different parameters that you're going to need. They give you a quick explanation of what, each one represents. So in this case, I'm saying network conditions that put, and I'm going to say offline. This is just a Boolean, right? So I'm saying there won't be any internet connection, right? The next one is latency. This one is not really important. I'm just putting it as a demonstration purposes of what you can do, right? If you were to use a different, say, limited internet, then you could increase the latency right here. You can also play around with the download, whether you allow downloads or disallow downloads, or how fast things can download. You can provide bytes per second. In this case, I'm just using -1, which means I'm going to disallow downloading or uploading of documents. The next thing I have here is this new method called execute CDP command. And this is a new method that Selenium 4 will bring. And we can see it's network. This is the command that I'm going to be sending, right? Network that emulate network conditions. Again, this commands you're going to find on a website, on the internet. And then we're going to passing those parameters, right? Here we're passing those parameters. And then whatever website we try to hit, this is the output that you're going to see. You're going to see no internet. Right? And that's pretty much it for that one. Now for emulating geolocation, say, for example, that you're trying to test some service that requires you to passing different locations. This would be ideal for you. So in this case, I can just pick a random coordinate on Earth, and then I can pass in a latitude, I can pass in a longitude, and then an accuracy, right? If you use one, that should be enough. And then we can, again, call the execute CDP command, and we're going to say emulation.set geolocation override, and we pass in those coordinates, right? In this case, it goes to Google, and it looks for rental companies near you. So whatever location we passed in this hash map, that's the results that you're going to get. It's based on whatever information you provide. So this is kind of nice. All right, so I have prepared a demo for you guys, so live demo of that. Let me go to there now. All right, so the first item we're going to take a look at is how to block downloads, right? So let me go to the Automate Now website. Here's a page I call Sandbox. You have different things that you can play around with. So in this case, I have file download section. We click on this section here, and it's going to take us to the screen here. And there's different files that you can download. I'm going to be interested in this one right here. When we click on download, you're going to see that the file starts downloading to your computer, right? So we're going to run a script that is going to get to the screen. And when we try to click on this download button, you're going to notice that there won't be any download happening, right? It's going to block it. So let's take a look at that script. So here I have created, again, a hash map, and I'm saying behavior. This is the parameter. It's called behavior, and I'm saying deny. So I'm denying downloads, right? And here's the execute CDP command method, and I'm passing in this command, browser.set download behavior, right? And I'm going to then navigate to this URL, And when we get there, we're going to manually, in this case, I'm going to manually click on that button just to show you guys what's going to happen. So let me go ahead and run this in debug mode. Okay. Let me bring the screen over here. Okay, so we hit that breakpoint, and now we're here on this section for downloading. I'm going to manually click on this button, and notice that there's nothing indicating that the file is downloaded. We see a quick, if you look at the top left, you're going to see it try to download it, but it quickly stops doing it. It stops trying to download it, right? Because we're telling it from the script, do not download any documents. All right, so that's the first one. All right, so the next one is going to be accessibility testing. With accessibility testing, there are different things that you can do. You know, there are different requirements. For example, what happens if somebody has blurry vision, right? Can they still get to your website and navigate through it? You know, is it still, you know, some other people have limitations like not able to see certain colors. You can also test that type of thing through CDP. Right. So in this case, I'm just going to emulate someone having blurry vision, right? So we're going to navigate basically to, again, Automate Now website here. And notice that right now, everything looks nice and sharp, right? When I run the script, you're going to notice a difference. So let's go ahead and take a look at that. All right, so let's go ahead and run it in debug mode. Got to bring the screen over. And as you can see, everything looks blurry, right? You can still sort of tell, you know, the images are easy to read, but the text is starting to look kind of blurry, right? So, you know, a use case for this that I can think of is, for example, if you have some manual testers that are going to manually go into the website and look at the screen, different screens, you know, you could automate that process, you know, just get screenshots and then just give those screenshots to your testers, your manual testers. So this would be a benefit for that. Let's go ahead and stop this one. And again, we have a hash map here. We use type, and there are different types of commands, different types of arguments that you can pass. In this case, I use blurry vision, but like I said before, there are other illnesses that someone may have that you can also pass in here as a parameter. And then the command is, this one is called set emulated vision deficiency, right? And this is the one we're going to use. And let me just quickly show you guys before I continue what that website is. This is the main Chrome DevTools Protocol website. And these are all the different things that you can do, right? So as far as emulation, this is the emulation section. These are all the things that you can do with that. Some of them you're going to notice that it says experimental. You know, it could mean that they're going to keep it. It could mean that they may not keep it in the future. So that's what allows you to play around with for now. You know, so we have stuff that you can do with the browser. You know, you can do things with the network. So a lot of different things that you can do here. Let's go back to the test. And the last one that I'm going to show you guys is emulating geolocation. So in this case, I'm going to pretend that I'm in a different location. So right now I'm in the United States, in Florida, Orlando. So I have gone ahead to Google, and I just picked the coordinates for Mumbai, India, and I put in the latitude and longitude here. I'm going to go to Google, and I'm going to try to find coffee shops near me, right? So let's go ahead and run this test. All right, so it's search for the keyword coffee near me, and here we can see results, right? So let me go ahead and click on this map so you guys can see. I'm just going to zoom out, and as you can see here, we are in fact looking at India right here, Mumbai, India. Right? All right, so and this one, the command for that one is called set geolocation override. Right, so whatever parameters you want to pass in here, that's what that's what it's going to use to find the information that you're looking for, right? In this case, we use Google, but it could be any other application that you're testing. All right, so now I'm going to take you back to the presentation. I got a few more slides here. So some of the other things that are also new, we said there was some changes to the architecture for WebDriver as well as the grid. When it comes to the grid, we some of the things that are new is basically that our node can run sessions on a Docker container, and you also have support for Kubernetes. Another thing is support for IPv6 addresses, which is the newer standard for IP addresses, and users can communicate with the grid using HTTPS protocol. And the UI is going to be refreshed. Basically, they worked on improving the looks of the UI, and the version is going to go from Selenium 2. They're going to skip a version, and they're going to go to Selenium 4. Right. And then we have also the improved IDE. I didn't touch on that, but if you want to use the Selenium IDE, they have basically redesigned the IDE, just make more user friendly. They're making it more accessible for people to start learning automation, basically. And Opera and Phantom.js are no longer going to be supported. If you're using those, then you can probably look at Chromium or something like that to continue to use those capabilities. So Desire capabilities is being replaced by options and redesign Selenium website. Basically, if you go to the Selenium website now, you're going to notice that the documentation has been updated. They have redesigned the actual website. I can tell you that by doing some research, even for this presentation, I noticed that they're pretty quick on keeping it up to date. In the past, that was a problem. Something new would come out, and you will look at the documentation, and things will look outdated. But now, even with the latest beta that came out this week, they already went ahead and added information on that version as well. And then the W3C Actions API, basically, they have adopted that standard, basically. So some of the key takeaways here is that the new architecture are going to make your tests more reliable, basically, as we talked about. They're going to be more reliable, and basically you're going to see a smoother execution of your tests. And tests are going to be easier to read and write. In some instances, like I showed you, it's like that duration object, you're setting implicit, explicit weights and things like that. You're going to notice that things are going to be easier to read and write. And then support from the Chrome DevTools Protocol is going to put you in control, because now you can do so many other things that we could not even dream of doing in the past, right? Now you're going to be able to use this tool to do a new facet of things that are going to be pretty exciting, in my opinion. All right, so with that, we have reached the end of this presentation. Thank you so much for watching this and for working on yourself, on gaining more knowledge. Sanjay, I'm going to send it back to you.
Sure, Marco. Yeah, that was a wonderful presentation. So we have a couple of questions here. The very first question we have from Madhu: can we inspect locators with above, etc. in DevTools?
I don't believe you can do that from the DevTools. You would have to, if you're using the DevTools, you can still use, like the tool that Sanjay created, SelectorsHub. You can just find your locator. Basically, any of the locator strategies that you can use with Selenium up to now, you can continue to use those. So, for example, if you find an element that has just an XPath and doesn't have an ID, then you can take that XPath and then go back to your script. And then in there, that's where you're going to declare that method. You're going to say with, you're going to call that with method, and then you're going to say by.xpath, and you provide that XPath. That's how it's going to work. But as far as I know, the Chrome DevTools is not going to allow you to search for an element by using the with or above or any of those relative locators, because this is only new to Selenium 4. It's not something that is going to be implemented by the Chrome DevTools. At least not for now.
Great. Thank you, Marco. I hope that answers some of the questions. Another question from Pankaj: will this be faster for locating the elements? Is there any performance impact with these new locators, since it will take some time to find?
Yeah, that is an excellent question, and I think that generally speaking, you probably won't see a negative impact by using relative locators. You can think of this just as another tool in your toolbox. Some people argue that XPath may be slower than by using by ID, for example. But by looking at some of the things that I found online, there's very negligible differences between those two strategies, right? So with this one, I don't think anyone has done any analysis to determine, is this going to be really slow? It's going to slow down your test. If you were to ask me, I think it's going to be very negligible. You won't even notice this probably. I want to do this, do a video in my YouTube about this, but I haven't gotten to do that yet. I want to do a test to see, what's the difference. Is it going to be faster or it's going to be slower? So stay tuned for that.
Great, Marco. Thank you for that. Next one we have from Madhu. Thanks. How about SelectorsHub? Is there any plan to integrate with new Selenium 4 locators? Yes, Madhu. So the locators in Selenium 4, those are the same as the current locators, just that they have introduced one more method, one more function basically, with which you will be finding the element like nearby or with above, like above or below, like that. But if you have noticed that what Marco has showed you, that first they are finding the element only with that, like driver dot find element by dot id by dot expert, that function itself is there. So yes, selectors will be supporting with Selenium 4 as well, and it will be supporting all kinds of locators for Selenium 4. Next question for Josefa. Selenium 4.0 is more than 2 years in beta. Why is it taking so long for release 4.0? This is making Selenium take a backseat compared to other automation tools. Marco, would you like to take this answer? Take
Yeah.
this question?
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's a fair argument. I think Selenium 4 was announced way back in 2000, late 2019, I believe. So it's been quite some time for them to actually come out with the full release. And I think a lot has to do with what goes on with development. You got to remember that Selenium tool is supported by people who are just nonprofit. This is not an organization like, say, for example, you're looking at Playwright. It's a new tool that is coming out full swing. They have full support from Microsoft. They have all the resources. These are dedicated teams that are working on this pretty much 24/7, right? With Selenium, it's different. You have some developers that are working on their spare time or the weekends. So they don't have the same deadlines to meet. They don't have the same free time to work on this, right? And they also depend on the community, right? So whenever they release a beta version, they have to wait for the community to test it and people to engage with it and report back any issues, and then the developers can start working on those issues, right? So there's definitely, like I said, a valid argument, but you also have to be conscious that these guys are working out of their free time and doing it for free. So that's what I would say to that.
Great, thank you, Mark. The next one is from Mohammed. Will that be helpful for runtime locators?
So I'm not sure what you refer to as runtime locators.
Yeah. So I guess when you say the runtime locators, so generally it means that the dynamic locators, like dynamic web elements. So basically, you want to write the stable locators, or like relative to some other element. So that's where you will have to like set the strategy upfront while writing the script, and then at runtime, like hovering on this element appears. If this element appears, then perform some action on that. So likewise, you will have to handle those things through script only.
Right. Yeah. I'm sorry about that. Yeah. I was thinking dynamic. So yeah, it's so the same idea, right? So runtime locator is something that just gets created as the application runs. So in this case, it's basically I would say nothing is going to change. Now you have this new ability, right, to find by relativity, basically, if you will. So it's going to give you a little bit more flexibility to find those type of locators. But for the most part, it's just going to, you might as well just continue to use, whatever strategy is using up to now.
Yes. The next one is from Sujit. For a newcomer in automation, will it be difficult, or it is like we need to go for Selenium 1, 2, then 3, something like that?
Yeah, so if you're just getting started with Selenium, I would not recommend you that you start with Selenium 1 or 2. At the very least, you will want to start with 3, which is what's stable. We have a stable release for Selenium 3, and it works very well across many browsers. So you could start there for now. And then when you're ready to move on to Selenium 4, that shouldn't be a big hassle for you to just move to the other version. You might need to change a few things. Like I said before, there are some libraries that are being deprecated, but for the most part, everything should work fine.
Yes, that's perfect. From Mohammed, will new method be helpful for creating runtime locators too? So I guess that we have already taken this question. Sujit, for a newcomer, that's we have taken. Okay. Yeah. So that's pretty much, I guess. Friends, if you have any more question, any advice for newcomers in Selenium overall, how to begin? Sujit, from Sujit. Marco, would you like to take this question, please?
Sure. So with Selenium, like I said, Selenium has been around for many years now, and there's a lot of great resources online. You can have multiple channels, not just my channel. I created a series just for beginners. You can go and check that out. Just look at Automate Now channel on YouTube. But there's a lot of other content creators out there that have great content as well, so you can check them out as well. So they take you from the very beginning steps. What is Selenium? What is an element? What is an element? Web element? How to locate an element. So from the very basics, there's so much information out there that you can learn from. And again, you have also paid courses that you can find, like Coursera or Udemy, things like that. So there's a lot of resources out there to get started with Selenium.
Yes. So another question is from Umang. I'm just a beginner in Selenium. Can you please highlight what are the new what are the new features in Selenium 4? So I guess this Marco has already highlighted all of them in the session. So maybe like you can go back and watch in the recording.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So generally speaking, there's the features are just basically relative locators. The architecture is being changed for both WebDriver and the grid, and there are some other things that are being deprecated, in the background. Those are the high level overview of that. You can take screenshots of a single element and things like that. But like Sanjay mentioned, you can always go back and watch this later to learn more.
Great. Thank you. Thank you all. Yes. Any more questions, guys? So I guess that was pretty much very good session, Marco. It was really helpful for everyone, and I'm sure people has learned a lot. Another question is from Bhushan. Will Selenium 4 support all Selenium 3 methods after update?
Yeah, so Selenium 4 will deprecate some methods. Like I said, there are some things that you can continue to use, but you will notice that when you upgrade to Selenium 4, there are some minor things that you're going to need to change. Basically, one example that I gave is when you're creating a weight, like an explicit weight, and you can say, or an implicit weight, you can say. Before we say time and then provide the seconds that you want to wait, but now he's using a duration objects. So those are that's just one quick example of that. But if you just do a quick search online, if what is being deprecated on Selenium 4, you can find some resources. If not, you can just ping me on LinkedIn. I can send you some links so you can learn more.
That's great.
These are all great questions, by the way. So thank you.
Yeah. Any more questions, guys? Great. I guess that's pretty much.
All right. Thank you so much,
Wonderful
Sanjay,
session, guys.
again for inviting me, and thank you so much for what you do for the community. Your tool. I'm a big fan of SelectorsHub, and just continue to do what you do. This is great stuff.
Thank you so much, Marco, for your kind words. We have one last question from Umang. He said, like, when can we expect a stable release of Selenium 4? Sorry, you might have already answered this, but can you please repeat?
Yeah, no problem. Yeah, so as I mentioned before, Simon Stewart announced this past Monday that the last beta version, which is beta 4, was released. That was Monday, a few days back. And the next release that is coming out is going to be a release candidate. So we could foresee by, later this summer, for Selenium 4 being officially released. That would be my guess if I had to make a bet.
Great. Yeah, so I guess that's pretty much for today's session, Marco. And thank you so much for joining with us and helping us with this insightful session on Selenium 4. It was amazing. I learned a lot today and hope like all the audience and the viewers have learned a lot many things. Marco, can I have your YouTube channel name? So Marco, could you please share your let everyone know about your channel name?
Sure. You can just search Automate Now on YouTube, and the channel will come up. So
Yeah, I will add the description. I will add the YouTube
Sure.
channel link in the description of this video, so you can subscribe to his channel and watch all those like insightful tutorial on automation what Marco has created, and also you can subscribe to this channel so that like any upcoming events or innovation on SelectorsHub automation side, you will not miss anything. With that, thank you so much everyone for joining, and thank you so much Marco for giving us the time and opportunity to learn from you. This was wonderful session, and looking forward more such session with you in future.
Yeah.
Thank you so much everyone.
Thank you, guys. Thank you. Appreciate it. Yeah.
Yeah, have a great weekend, guys.
All right.
Bye bye.
Bye, everyone.
Be safe.